Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Mark from Sound Matters. Today we're taking a look at the Fosi Audio V3 Mono. It's a monoblock amplifier, meaning this is just one channel and you will need two of these to power your speakers. I'll get to why that might be a good thing further in this review. Those of you who watched this channel recently will know that I also recently reviewed the Box X5 phono preamp and I was really impressed. Fosi Audio have a bit of a reputation now for creating kind of giant killer boxes that produce very audiophile results but at a very attractive price point. So, having been suitably impressed with that recent phono preamp, can the V3 Mono also impress me to the same level? Let's get straight into the review. If there's one thing that Fosi Audio really gets spot on, it's listening directly to customer feedback. Following the launch of their V3 stereo amplifier back in 2023, they received a lot of direct feedback from their customers, which they have listened to and say they've poured into the design of the V3 Monos. The most recurring piece of feedback was request for post-filter feedback, or PFFB for short. I'll get into why that's so critical further into this review, but there was big requests to create a monoblock amplifier with simplified circuitry and also including things like balanced inputs. But before we delve any deeper, let's just clarify exactly what a monoblock amplifier is and why you might want one. Unlike traditional stereo amplifiers that power two speakers, a monoblock drives just one speaker per amp. But why would you choose this setup? Well, first of all, you have dedicated power. Each speaker receives focused amplification, which may reduce distortion and enhance sound quality. Secondly, we get better channel separation. That means no crosstalk between channels, which means a wider soundstage and improved imaging. The downside to all of this, of course, is that you're going to need two of these guys to power a traditional stereo setup, which means more clutter. That said, they are very, very compact and small, although I must say the power supply is bigger than this, so you've got to accommodate that as well. Now, the second thing is there's no volume control in these amplifiers. They are pure amplifiers, which means you're going to need some sort of preamp stage, whether that be a dedicated preamp box for your source inputs, a DAC, or a integrated amplifier with the option to have a variable output stage. So you're not going out of the speaker outputs, but you've got a line level that allows for a variable output to send to a second amplifier stage where you can use the volume control on your integrated amp but kind of bypass the amplifier stage of said integrated amp. And for my review, this is exactly how I'm going to run things. I'm going to use my Project StereoBox DS2 integrated amplifier, going out of the variable output stage into a set of these V3 Mono amplifiers, powering a set of Klipsch RP500M speakers. My phono stage will be the Michael Fiddler MM Pro series. Assuming that you're using the larger 48 volt power supply option, the V3 Mono amplifiers will deliver 120 watts rated RMS power at 8 ohms per channel, giving ample power to my speakers with plenty of headroom. For reference, the RP500s have a continuous power handling of 75 watts with a nominal impedance of 8 ohms. The V3 Mono will accept both RCA and XLR inputs. XLR is fantastic for cancelling out any unwanted electromagnetic interference that we don't want in our signal, and if you have this option, it should produce an overall cleaner audio performance. The RCA input of the V3 Mono offers selectable gain settings of 25 and 31 dB, providing flexibility to match the amplifier's sensitivity to various audio sources. Lower gain of 25 dB helps minimize noise and distortion when using sources with strong output signals, while higher gain, 31 dB, boosts weaker signals, allowing optimal volume and performance across different setups and components. This makes the V3 Mono very adaptable across multiple systems and is definitely a very welcome feature in my books. The front panel is beautifully minimalistic, giving you smart and robust switches for selecting between RCA and XLR inputs, and of course for toggling between off, on and auto mode. Auto mode will switch the device into standby mode automatically when no signal is received for 10 minutes. This of course saves you power in the process. One of the key selling points of the V3 Mono is how it deals with the issue of load dependency. That phenomena in Class D amplifiers where the performance varies depending on the impedance of the speaker that it's connected to. The V3 Mono addresses this issue using the post-filter feedback function that I mentioned earlier, or PFFB. This is, in simple terms, a feedback method that stabilizes the frequency response regardless of speaker load. And in the words of Fosi Audio's marketing, this significantly reduces distortion, enhances linearity and frequency response, and improves the sound purity and system efficiency. Okay, so PFFB isn't exactly something new, but it has typically been found really in more sort of high-end, more expensive Class D amplifiers, and it attempts to give the V3 Mono somewhat of a performance that's closer to, say, a Class A or Class AB amplifier. Now on to how the V3 Mono actually sounds. Now, I've never really been dissatisfied as such with the Project Stereobox DS2, but a move away from an integrated amplifier has always been something on the cards, so to speak, budget permitting. I was really struck by how obviously wider the stereo separation was when I moved to the V3 Mono, and the overall opening up of clarity in general. The sound is balanced, crisp and clean, with a low end that's noticeably deeper than my existing amp while still remaining controlled. In general, it's quite a neutral sounding amplifier, I would say, and thanks to that lack of load dependency, it should pair well with a wide range of speakers. You can actually power speakers all the way down to 2 ohms with this guy. So far, so good, but I have to say it hasn't all been plain sailing. I've actually been sat on this product for several months. I first initially received these back in November of last year, and in my usual way, I got very excited, set it all up, ready to start reviewing a new piece of gear. I played my usual kind of reference records through them, was initially very impressed with the sound quality. I went away at the end of the day, came back the following day, and one channel wasn't working. So I thought, okay, what's going on here? I did the usual kind of process of elimination, removing cables, trying to figure out whether perhaps maybe it's just an RCA cable that's failed or maybe something else in my signal chain. Switched channels over, did the usual stuff you would normally do, and I unfortunately narrowed it down to the fact that the fault was with one channel of the V3 Mono. So, a little bit disappointed with that. I got back in touch with Fosi Audio, and I have to say, actually, their support was really, really good. They informed me that they did have an issue with one of the batches back in October of last year. There was something that went wrong in the manufacturing process, and they did have a faulty batch. So they very quickly sent me a replacement unit, and I'm pleased to say that for several months afterwards now, these are holding up absolutely fine. But that's why I've actually sat for longer on this review. I've sat on this product for a lot longer than I normally would with any other review, but I thought, given that I had that issue, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I rushed this review out. So I've sat on these for a lot longer than normal. I've had them for several months running now, and I just needed to make sure that I did, as I say, my due diligence as a reviewer to make sure that that problem had been ironed out. But kudos to Fosi Audio for their quick response and for sending that replacement unit and being very honest about the issue. So, in conclusion, should you buy the V3 Mono? Well, I'm by no means the only person to have reviewed this amplifier. Audio Science Reviews gave this an incredibly favourable result in their usual manner with lots of measurements and charts. And for those of you who like to really dig into the technical data, I will leave a I will leave a link in the description for you to check out their findings and to see how it performs with their usual very robust measurement tests. Now, Cheap Audio Man on YouTube gave this an absolute rave review. Scientific Audiophile also gave a very favourable review indeed. One other reviewer called Passion for Sound actually gave this a fairly sort of underwhelming kind of response of a review. That is until performing the op-amp upgrade that you can do with these and then finding that that did lift the audio quality. Sound quality, of course, is often very subjective, and for those who wish to squeeze as much value from their gear as possible, having the option to swap out the op-amps gives you a potential upgrade path and a way to tailor the amp to your own personal taste. My take on it, the V3 Mono is superb. It's excellent and hugely impressive, in fact, considering the budget-friendly price point. It is worth mentioning though that I am using the 48 volt 5 amp power supply times 2, so I have a separate power supply per amplifier instead of using the larger 48 volt 10 amp power supply and the optional splitter that you can use to power 2 of these V3 mono amps. So while this has some sonic benefits, performance benefits, having separate power supplies, it does add to the clutter, so it might be something you want to consider going forward with this, because while these things are tiny, those power supplies aren't exactly small. In fact, they're almost half again the size of this, and certainly very heavy, so it certainly adds to the clutter of the system. That's something that you should just bear in mind. Despite my initial issue that I had that was quickly resolved by Fosi Audio, my experience has been overwhelmingly positive. I have to say that the V3 Mono has brought new life to my speakers, and I think I really do prefer the way it sounds to my integrated amplifier, which means for now they're definitely staying in place, they're not going anywhere, and I'm going to continue using them. So in short, the V3 Mono absolutely does deliver on its promises to bring premium features like post filter feedback and that kind of true no crosstalk monoblock performance at an impossibly low price. So for that reason alone, it's a firm recommendation from Sound Matters. That's it for the review, guys, but if it sounds like the product for you, do check out the discount code in my description and a link to buy directly at the Fosi Audio website. You get that discount, I get a very small commission, and I appreciate your support because it helps keep this channel alive. But if you're new to this channel, do also consider hitting the subscribe button. I'd love to have you on board my audio journey with you guys. But until that next one, guys, keep enjoying the music, keep spinning those records, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good time, have a great week, and I'll see you then. Cheers, bye.